Hello and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence.
And I'm Meg Hostel.
And today we're talking about Last Man on Earth. Meg, I love Vincent Price, and we're going back to a Vincent Price movie. We haven't rewatched a Vincent Price movie, I think, since House on Haunted Hill. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that is the last one. We haven't done too many of his, so we still have a lot of them to do. Well, I'll go into the background a little bit. So it's 72% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It's based on the 1954 I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. And we have talked about Richard Matheson before, but he wrote Stir of Echoes, so we discussed him then. He also wrote the Nightmare at 20,000 Feet episode of Twilight Zone. And he used to do those adaptions of Poe for Roger Corman with Vincent Price in them. Have you seen any of those?
Yes, I think I have, yeah.
Yeah, like Pit and the Pendulum and The Raven and things like that. So,
right.
And he also wrote part of the script for this movie. And then what was kind of interesting is that there's two directors. One is a documentary filmmaker, and this is his only, fictional film that he did, and the other director was more a Western director, which I thought was interesting. It was filmed in Rome, and it is an Italian cast and crew, which I think after I saw that made sense. And in 1958, the film rights were sold to the British for Hammer Films, but the UK wouldn't allow it to be made because, I don't know, they felt like it was too extreme.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I know. It's like, what? I mean, and then when you think of the Hammer films, I don't know.
I know, it's not like they were making high art, no offense.
I know, right. So at the time that the film rights were sold, Matheson was told that Fritz Lang would direct it. And if anybody, has gone to film class, he did Metropolis, and he's, a really artsy-fartsy director. But he was disappointed. And he said that Vincent Price was miscast. Oh. And he said, I didn't care for it. So that was his feeling about it. Yeah. So let's dive in.
Well,
have you seen this movie before?
Yes. I used to have this in my Vincent Price VHS collection. And I read the book. I watched this movie. I watched Omega Man. And, of course, I watched the Will Smith remake. And this one's my favorite.
Yeah,
of all those, what do you think?
Well, I had never seen this one before. I had read the book, and I watched the Will Smith movie. I've never seen the Omega Man, and so I kind of went into it cold. I mean, other than reading the book, but I didn't know exactly what it was going to be like. And I think right away I was happy because I love Vincent Price narration.
Yes.
The sound of his voice makes me so happy, and he's so dramatic.
I know.
And, having him, I don't know, if you think about it, how few people you'd actually want to be the last man on Earth, watching a film about them.
Right.
When the sitcom came out, which I know is not related, but The Last Man on Earth with Will, which Will is it?
Right.
Forte.
I want to say
Forte.
Right.
Yeah, I want to say Ferrell, but no, Will Forte. I remember thinking, how are they going to make a TV show out of that? And of course, they ended up, adding people and stuff to it. But Vincent Price is one of the few actors where I'm going to enjoy actually watching him be alone and in this universe of nothingness.
Yes, I agree. I have a question for you though. If you were the last person on Earth, would you set an alarm like he does?
No, definitely not. I mean, I guess he was doing it because, it has to do with his time, since the creatures aren't out or something, but no.
I know. He's so disciplined.
I know. See, that's why he's the last man on Earth.
I respect that. And the other thing, I mean, he is, he gets dressed every day. He's well-dressed. I realize it's a movie.
That's true.
But he's so...
No, but that's true.
He cares and he's trying.
That's true. I didn't even think about that because the truth is, if I was the last person on Earth, I would not ever wear a stitch of makeup ever again.
No.
And I mean, just imagine what you would. I mean, the clothes you would wear. And I was wondering. It says that it had been 3 years, I think. Like, I wonder how crazy someone would be.
Right.
Like, I'm sure there's psychological, like, tests about this, and I know that, people who are put in, like, solitary confinement, which is a little different because they're not getting, like, freedom to move about, but, I mean, your brain turns to mush if, like, you don't have other people around, I would assume. So I just wonder, like, psychologically what that would do to you, physically how that would even change you.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I don't know, I think everybody's probably had a fantasy of what it would be like oh my gosh, like, to have the whole world to yourself sounds kind of nice, but I think we would all probably go crazy after like a week.
Oh, definitely. We were just rewatching Castaway with Tom Hanks last weekend, and he too, it's like the Wilson, the volleyball, was like psychologically the best thing to ever have happened to him because he had a friend. But then when Wilson dies, quote unquote, and gets like floats away, like I still cry, and it's a volleyball.
Yes,
that's brilliant
so
writing.
Yeah, it is.
So
I don't think Vincent Price had a Wilson in this movie.
He did not, and
No.
that must have been difficult. But
yes.
I'm proud of him. I mean, his character and the character that Richard Matheson created, like, for being so thorough and busy and disciplined, because like I said, I don't think I would be. I probably would be dead.
Yeah, I don't think chances are very high that we're gonna last through this. I'm very high maintenance. So I wrote that what kind of is fun about it is that there are the tropes of the zombie apocalyptic genre, which is fun because technically this is before Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
But then there's also the tropes of the vampire genre. So I kind of thought it was fun how they're mixed together.
Yeah, those worlds are colliding. So it does remind me of Night of the Living Dead, even though this is pre. And it has, this theme also of science. And he's a man of science, and he refuses not to be logical. And this plague, it can't, it's supernatural in origin or, explanation, but he just can't wrap his brain around it. And I think a lot of us wouldn't be able to if this actually happened.
Yeah. And I think what got me, and I knew this from the book, but it still like disturbed me when they showed it, is the speaking zombies.
Oh, yeah.
And I know maybe I shouldn't even call them zombies, but this, whatever they are, I don't know what did they use a term in the movie? I don't think so.
No, I don't.
But they're kind
remember.
of like zombie vampires, and when they first speak, because I'm just so used to like what I consider a zombie, that it was really cool, and it kind of made me realize like we should play with even more like conventions of all these genres and mash them up together because it was fun.
Yeah. So speaking of plagues and mashing up of genres, we are researching and writing the science of Stephen King right now, and some of these themes we're exploring in the book. So you'll have to wait until October, but be sure to check that out.
Plug.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. Let's see what else I wrote. Oh, I said a mirror store. Does this exist? He went to a literal mirror store, and I was wondering, like, maybe stores like back then were more specific like that. I guess there wasn't a Target. So
yeah, there were no big box stores.
Yeah, did people go to a mirror store? I just like that.
I love that too. And his guilt, his lost love, like the whole movies, it was so sweet and touching.
It was, and obviously, kind of like when they start showing that aspect of himself, and then they go back and we see his wife and his daughter and everything. I thought that was cool because it obviously made his character more interesting and sort of like brought us back to when this plague started.
I mean, any sick child in any movie or TV show, it tugs at my heart so much. And seeing her and then seeing the soldiers taking people away and burning their bodies, like that is so personal because that's somebody's loved one, and you're taking away that moment of respect where we decide what happens to them, and they're just ripping that away from people. Yeah,
I think we've found this in so many horror movies where the idea of how a body is treated, and like that's a true horror because it's sort of inculcated into our society that we like treat them with respect.
Right.
And obviously there are situations where that can't happen. You know, it's scary when stuff's going on right now, like the coronavirus, and things are getting out of control. And, you know, again, like something like this, okay, yeah, probably vampire zombies aren't going to come around, but there's like a shred of reality in it that I find disturbing.
Yes. Oh, when he buries his wife.
Oh,
then,
I know.
And then she comes back, right?
Does she? I don't remember that.
Does
she? Probably.
See, it's been a while since we rewatched this.
I know, because I wrote dog. No.
Yes, my next note was about the dog too. Like these are the things I care about: sick children and dogs.
I know. There was a meme the other day, like it was one of those where it was like, you know, my face like watching the kids die as the adults die, and then like my face when the dog dies, and it's like, no, I can't take it.
I know. Well, and that was
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that was people's complaints about the "Don't F with Cats" documentary too.
Know.
It's like, what, you know, it's not the human lives, it's the
meanwhile, this Magnon is like brutally murdering this man, but it's like the kitty cat, which obviously is hard to watch too. But yeah, it's funny how we work. So I wrote every female is stubborn.
Yes,
it was very of the time, shall we say?
Right.
So sidebar, Fox had to be a like famous person and be interviewed in school. Like he had to pretend to be a famous person, like for class. And his person was Bob Hope, of all people.
Oh. Did he pick that person?
Yeah. I guess it was like out of a group of people, but he
chose
Bob Hope. So he had done all this research on Bob Hope and knew everything about him. And so I said, well, maybe we should like watch one of his stand-ups or something. He's like, no, I want to watch a Bob Hope movie. And I'm like, okay. And I had only, when I was a kid, I had seen some of his movies, like Road to movies with Bing Crosby, but I couldn't find any of those. So we found this movie called My Favorite Brunette.
Oh, God.
You can probably imagine it was 1947. And it was funny, but, I mean, you can probably imagine how problematic it was, like, on thousands of levels. So it's funny, though, to sort of, like, talk and discuss with your kids about that stuff, because we could appreciate the humor, but we also were, like, just having a dialogue about, you know, the way movies were made back then. And so I thought it was, like, a good way to kind of, like, show how the world's changed to these youths that are growing up now. And I feel like this is a great example of the movie is really a fun horror movie, but also sometimes it can be a dialogue about, like, you know, and now female characters get a little bit more, you know, leeway, and what do you think about that and stuff. So I think this would be a good example of, you know, there's nothing necessarily terribly problematic, but at the same time, the women were kind of like screaming and not really, you know, great functional characters. So it's a good, I see it as a positive and have a good dialogue with your kids.
Right. No, that's true. You know, so speaking of women, it's Ruth, I think, is the woman that he is interacting with now.
Up. Yeah.
And then he discovers that he's been killing people that are quote unquote still alive. And and then Ruth is cured, but then she gets attacked again, so that he really is the last man on Earth, last human, and everyone else has this virus or whatever it is. The ending is so sad, but I think it's also maybe a commentary on otherness and how we view people who are different from us, and who really is the monster. Was he the monster then? Because he couldn't accept that these people were different. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I think, like, obviously, if you draw back to the time that it came about, like, obviously that would go in line with, like, the what was going on with racial tensions and everything. So that makes so much sense. And just, like, think about how much discord there was in just America alone at the time. So, yeah, no, that makes sense to me. And I think I remember reading the book and, like, having that sort of profound feeling, and it worked in this too. Now that being said, I do think this movie is a little schlocky and a little cheesy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite Vincent Price movie. Would you say it's your favorite? Okay.
No, not my favorite Vincent Price movie. My favorite iteration of the movies.
Okay.
But
yeah, fair enough.
But I love Vincent Price so much. I mean, he was in Rebecca. He was in Edward Scissorhands. Like, think about all these iconic roles.
I know. Yeah, I don't know what it is about him, and I've said before, like, as a kid, I just was drawn to him so naturally, and I think a lot of people have felt that way. Obviously, Tim Burton felt that way and, like, you know, really created his career out of a short film called Vincent. So I don't know. There's just something about him and the way I don't know. What is it? It's so funny and random, too, because I watched the movie and my dad came over to babysit like a week later, and Dexter's like, oh, Grandpa's watching that same old movie. And I looked, and my dad had been watching, and it was just random, like it was just complete chance. And I thought it was funny that still after all these years, Vincent Price is resonating. And I know you said that he lived like a pretty progressive life, right?
Right, yes, and, you know, supported people openly, and I think even identified it as saying, you know, the wording wasn't bisexual at the time, probably, but he talked about, you know, how we can all be attracted to everyone, and he was forward thinking.
He was, and there's just, I don't know, something classic and wonderful and earnest about him, and when I think of Vincent Price movies, they make me happy. So, yes.
It's just like a comfort food, except a comfort person.
It is. Like, I was on Halloween, I got sucked into The Bat, and I hadn't seen that one either, and I ended up watching most of that, and it was just so, and again, parts are schlocky and cheesy, but he's always the best part of the film, so maybe that's what it is, you know, but anyway, I think this is a pretty good movie, and I would recommend it to anybody.
All right. Well, let's rank it. I don't know what our scale should be. If there's something that stands out. You know, maybe mirrors from the mirror stores.
Mirrors from the mirror store, because you need them because they're like vampire-ish. And yeah.
And it's a reflection of yourself and society.
Ooh.
So.
Oh my
really
God.
deep. So scale of 0 to 10, 0 being you hated it, 10 being you think it's a perfect movie. How many mirrors from the mirror store do you give Last Man on Earth?
Okay, I'm going to give it, and this might sound kind of harsh, but I'm going to give it a 7.5 because Vincent Price is wonderful, but I thought the filmmaking could have been better, and I enjoyed it. But again, if I was going to say, like, oh, here's some quintessential Vincent Price, I'd probably pick something else.
No, and you're not harsh at all. I realize I'm going to be harsh. I'm only giving it 6 mirrors from the mirror store because so here's the rewatch thing. Of course, I love Vincent Price. The story's great. Yeah. But it didn't live up to my remembrance, my expectation of how it used to make me feel, and maybe it's because we've done so many of these now in the past almost 3 years that expectations are getting higher. You know,
I think that's fair. And current horror is so good lately.
Yeah,
we're spoiled too.
Yes, exactly. And so that's why there's been a couple times, and we won't not name drop, a couple times when one of us has started a movie that we were going to rewatch and told the other one, you know what, we have better things to do with 2 hours of our lives. Don't watch it. You know? Yeah,
that's something too. Where we're starting to learn, like, let's not, if we're not enjoying a movie, let's not even go there. Yeah, agreed.
Because life is short, and you never know when the plague is going to hit. So,
no kidding.
Or maybe it's already here.
Ooh,
dun dun dun,
dun dun dun.
So, friends, if you haven't seen a Vincent Price horror movie lately, go out and watch one. And even if you have, go watch another one because he is a gift.
He is, and yes, it's on Amazon Prime, so you have no excuses.
There you go. Until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.
Bye.